We are now at the south of the historical site of Temple Mount. Along this road, we can reach the west border of the ancient city of David. From the aerial photograph of Jerusalem today, Kidron Valley is to the east of the city, and we can still see the outline of the city of David back then. Here is the Jerusalem Walls National Park, where the ancient city of David was built. In the northeast corner of the national park, there are the ruins of the east walls of the city of David. Some walls built in the Persian era are found here. Here we come to this segment of walls. Most archaeologists believed that they were built in the Nehemiah era. The wall is 30 meters long. Several years after its excavation, archaeologists verified and announced in 2007 that it was built by Nehemiah. Let's take a look at the stone wall slopes and try to understand why Nehemiah built the walls here. These slanting stone walls are called stepped stone structure by archaeologists. It is called Milo in 2 Samuel, Kings, and Chronicles, which means the structure of slopes with stone pitching. The Jebusite built it around 1200 BC to support their castle and palace. Later on, King David reinforced this stepped stone structure to support his palace and observatory, and it has been preserved until now. Looking down from the wall, we can see the Kidron Valley. It is still quite steep now. Most archaeologists viewed that Nehemiah built the original structure of the wall in several segments. But this part of the wall was supposed to be below the slope, but then it was probably severely damaged, as written in chapter 2, verse 14, that there was no place for the animal I was riding to continue. It was because the foundation was ripped out by the Babylonian army and became mounds of rubble that could not be rebuilt. So Nehemiah took the fastest way and built the new section of wall on top of the stepstone structure. Some scholars estimated that this wall is 5 meters thick. We can imagine how difficult the project was at the time.
The entire chapter 3 of Nehemiah records how Nehemiah organized each family and tribe to build a section of the walls and set up its doors, laid its beams, installed its bolts or its bars. Such division of labor enables the reconstruction to progress at the same time. Therefore, the walls of Jerusalem were rebuilt within a short period of time.
Let's take a look at the gates built by the Ottoman Empire in the 16th century and picture the details of the construction of those gates described in the Bible. The gate near the southwest corner of the ancient city is Zion Gate. The passage of the gate took a 90-degree turn, which was a typical device for defense in the ancient time. Gates were probably rebuilt in a similar way. This is Jaffa Gate at the west of the city. This is a more complete structure of the gate. We can see clearly the beams, the doors, and bolts. There are only relatively old doors left on the Damascus Gate at the north of the city. This is the Lion's Gate at the east of the city. Look at these door beams built 400 years ago. The right and left doors and its bolts. They retain the very old structure of the gates. Looking at the Lion's Gate, we can imagine the reconstruction projects of the city gate was probably the same.
The scriptures continue on to describe the collaboration of the whole job. Chapter 13, verses 4 and 28 tell us the high priest Eliashib was on the top of the list. He was also related to the enemies Sanballat and Tobiah.
But Nehemiah needed him to take the lead. By the grace of God, Nehemiah got his cooperation. People were encouraged to work together to rebuild the walls.
The high priest Eliashib and his fellow priests were responsible for the sheep gate and some segment of the walls, which connected the Tower of the Hundred and the Tower of Hananel. These two towers were probably the temple fortress mentioned in Nehemiah chapter 2, verse 8, which were very important for defense at the northwest of Jerusalem. According to the detailed records in chapter 3, there were at least 10 gates under reconstruction. First, Sheep Gate, which was also known as Benjamin Gate, at the northeast corner of the city. The sacrificial sheep used in the temple came to the city through this gate. Second, Fish Gate, at the northwest corner of the city. It is mentioned in 2 Chronicles chapter 33, verse 14. It was a large gate in the era of King Solomon. The aquatic products from the fishing ports along the sea, like Tyre and Sidon, and the Sea of Galilee were delivered to the fish market at the city through this gate. Third, Old Gate. Fourth, Valley Gate. Fifth, Dung Gate. Sixth, Fountain Gate, which is probably close to the Pool of Shiloh. Seven, Watergate, which is probably leading to the gate of Gihon Springs. Eighth, Horse Gate, as mentioned in Jeremiah chapter 31, verse 40. Ninth, East Gate. It is generally believed that it is not a gate of the city, but a gate to the temple courtyard. 10th, Muster Gate. It is also translated as the Inspection Gate. It is probably the gate of the guard mentioned in Nehemiah chapter 12, verse 39, which is at the north end in the east of the city. In addition, a goldsmith and a perfumer restored Jerusalem as far as the Broad Wall, as mentioned in chapter 3, verse 8. The Broad Wall was built in the era of Hezekiah in the southern kingdom. According to chapter 12, verse 38, one section was probably located between the Tower of the Ovens and the Old Gate. Another section has been excavated in the old city of Jerusalem today.
We are in the Jewish quarter in the old city of Jerusalem. Let's take a look at the wall. According to the archaeological findings, the excavated broad wall is about 65 meters long. The broad wall was used to guard the northwest of ancient Jerusalem. Since the terrain is relatively flat, the enemies can use battering rams to strike the wall easily. Therefore, the wall is rather thick, about 7 meters wide. According to the archaeological findings, the height of the wall is estimated to be 8 meters. The scripture also mentions about the wall of the Pool of Shiloh being built. What we see here is actually the Pool of Shiloh, which was discovered in 2004. This Pool of Shiloh is also related to King Hezekiah. In 2 Kings chapter 20 and 2 Chronicles chapter 32 record, at the 7th century BC, the Assyrians invaded Jerusalem. King Hezekiah of the southern kingdom prepared for the long haul. He ordered to make a tunnel and channeled water from Gihon Springs outside the city to the Pool of Shiloh inside the city. This tunnel brought water from Gihon Springs to this pool so that the water supply was guaranteed when the city was under siege.
In the Israel Museum in Jerusalem today, there is a hexagonal column made of baked clay called the Sennacherib hexagonal prism. The cuneiform inscription records the exploits of Sennacherib, the Assyrian king, and the invasion of Judah, which brought Jerusalem under siege in 701 BC at the time of King Hezekiah. On the prism, Sennacherib said, "My army besieged and captured Lachish, the fortified city of Judah, and 40-something cities. I took as plunder more than 200,000 people, along with a great number of horses, mules, donkeys, camels, oxen, and sheep. As for Hezekiah, I shut him up like a caged bird in Jerusalem." On one of the tiles found in the ruin of Lachish, currently exhibited in the Israel Museum, we can see the message written in Hebrew that the city was about to be conquered. However, there are no words about the result of the attack in Jerusalem on the prism. This fact indirectly confirmed what was written in the Bible. King Hezekiah obeyed Prophet Isaiah's words and relied on God. God sent an angel to strike down 180,000 men in the camp of Sennacherib. The army of Sennacherib retreated in a hurry. No wonder there is no triumph inscribed on the prism.
This is the tunnel. Archaeologists call it Siloam Tunnel or Hezekiah Tunnel. The tunnel is about 500 meters in length, with the height higher than a man on average. The highest point is 10 meters tall. Currently, springs are still flowing in the tunnel. Let's walk back to the city of David. In the palace of David, underneath the stepstone structure, there's an excavation of an old house, the House of a Heel. This house was built before 586 BC. This is a 4-room house with a section of wall at its front. The scripture tells us that most of the families were responsible for the sections of walls in front of their own home. It saved their time and gave them a sense of security. Here we see the walls of the old district of Jerusalem nowadays. People still build their homes on top of the walls. Now we understand it is a wisdom Nehemiah receives from God to arrange the construction plan in such a manner. This is truly a win-win arrangement.
At Spring of Water International Ministries, we invite you to journey with us, giving seed to the sower and bread to the eater. Isaiah 55:10. To find out more, follow Spring of Water International Ministries.